first of all, just to introduce myself, I'm Stewart Kellett, I'm the CEO of Basketball England. I'm just going to kick the conference off today with a further broad perspective, not just talking about coaching or the Aspire or talent, but just a bit of knowledge about where I think the game's moving to and the kind of changes we're trying to bring about to just to create that growth and development environment for the game that it really deserves. Really, we're going to be stop-go for a while, but meetings like this and some of the inputs we're going to get from people with experience in basketball and outside basketball, I'm hoping is going to make people really think, where do we take this young person, athlete-focused approach that we're all bonding to and making lots of changes and putting all the effort that you guys have put into the sport. It's really starting to shift now, and I hope people are kind of sensing that, but we're a long way from the finished article, as you know. So we thought stimulus from different people in and outside the game, some stuff to reflect on the last 12 months as well, and then debate time for you guys to share, how's it been going this first year. We're changing a lot of things. I just hope you're going to get a lot out of it. And I thank everyone for prioritising the day. You're all super busy people. I'm sure you're all going to be on the coaching, but it's really good we get together and get some new input and think about where we go next with the stuff that you've been doing, if that's okay. I'm around for the whole of the day, so at any breaks or lunchtime, if you want to chat about anything in the game, what I'm saying now, any aspects of the Aspire programme, any dimension of the game, I'm around all day. I will pick up a couple of points about 3x3. We have an opportunity with the Commonwealth Games, which I'm going to talk about, but anyone that's got a view around integrating that part of the game with the 5 game from a participation and talent perspective, I'm all ears because it's very underdeveloped in this country, as you know. I think we're missing a real opportunity. So anyone that's got any ideas, I'm all ears today about getting anything from you about how we can inject some pace into that part of the game, if that's all right. Okay, so if you can perhaps just sort of put up with the interruptions that might happen in the next few minutes as people come. But what I want to do is just give a kind of a perspective across the game, really, about where it's at, where are we, and how do stakeholders like Sport England and other bodies see basketball at the moment. We have a plan, it's a strategic plan which takes us over a 6-year period. We picked that period deliberately to bridge 2 funding cycles with Sport England. Governing bodies now are busy writing plans for the next 4 years. We wrote a plan after a lot of consultation, a lot of work around a concept called the basketball development model, a lot of benchmarking internationally about what is it like to look at the athlete-centred approach for every age and stage, which you're all familiar with. We've now got some tools to work with that. So we're in a pretty good position to go back to lottery and other funders to say, look, we've been doing a lot of changes. We've been bringing networks together. We've been changing the way we look at the sport from an athlete-centred approach. And we've got a stack of people who do a lot of work for virtually nothing. We're not like golf and cricket and tennis where there's a lot of paid professional coaches flooding the network. Some people who might make a living out of coaching, but a lot of people in this room do it voluntary and do a hell of a lot for the community beyond the sport. And I don't think the government, or not being political, but I just don't think enough people like funders recognise the volunteer base that makes this sport sing. So I want to try and bring that as part of this regular meetings with you guys, convey it back to funders, and get people to see the massive effort and the massive impact that basketball has in England. And this plan is pretty simple actually, about growing the game, developing the infrastructure of people and facilities, which I'm going to talk a little bit about. One of our big kind of milestones was to create an environment around 10 thriving talent hubs, and we're kind of there at 8.5 or virtually 9. One more to clean, I think, in Yorkshire at the moment. But that's just an example of the environmental shift we're looking at, the infrastructure support, creating a great environment to develop our talented young players. And another thing is we're going through a huge change at basketball, and we don't necessarily grandstand about it, and we do get things wrong as we go through changes, but we are genuinely trying to change the way we look at the game. We're too stiff and corporate. We want to sing and act like the game is played on the court. And it's quite difficult when you're a governing body, when you've got rules and regs and you've got to deselect people to be in a team. You've got to recruit coaches to be part of a high-performing national team, and therefore, by default, some people don't get that opportunity. So we have to take some tough decisions which makes them popular. Sometimes we make some mistakes which makes us even more unpopular. But I just want to assure you that everything we're trying to do with a very small team is about helping you guys have the tools and the environment to thrive with the young people that you work with. And we don't always get it right, but we are trying hard to get better at what we're doing to help the sport move forward. I just want to just sort of share a bit of a portrait here. At the moment, Basketball England, in terms of its membership, has been flicking between sort of 30 and 33,000, and our digital reach is kind of quite modest at the moment, and I'm going to talk about how we're going to flip that into a much bigger reach. But our influencing through people like yourselves and the core of the sport is about 250,000. And in our plan, we want to engage 500,000. But last autumn, Sport England published their Active Life survey findings, and it was pretty definitive that we're the second largest team sport in the country after football, and there's 1.2 million picking up a basketball every year. And there's 33,000 probably competing viciously every week, and there's probably a few 100,000 that pick up a ball at school for a few weeks and put it down and don't bother playing again. So what we want to do as an organisation and to work with people like yourselves is how do we get into this broader playing market to draw them into playing more regular basketball and broaden that market. Part of that's giving basketball a home, a visible home in Britain. And when we speak to the NBA, they claim that when the global game comes to town in Europe, was London till recently, wasn't it? They reckon that they're waking up 5 million people who maybe armchair fans, but they have a propensity to get involved and take interest in basketball. So we've kind of been focusing on the core of the sport, which is absolutely fine, but there's a stack of other people who we want to leverage to be part of the game. A bigger game means more relevance to England and the population. A bigger reach means more chance of resourcing the things that matter for this great sport. So that's the kind of philosophy that we're developing in this next phase. And you'll all appreciate this because you love the game, you live and breathe it, and you do a stack of work for other people in a very unselfish way. But what I don't think the sport's brought out enough, and you do it individually, I know, but collectively, the sport needs to put a massive spotlight on all the richer dimensions of this game. I'm absolutely convinced that basketball is richer than any other sport in Britain, and collectively, I haven't quite brought this out, so it's something that we're working on. One example, the new apprenticeship scheme. So we're looking at the process, maybe how we can become a registered training provider and work with a network of colleges to create maybe an apprenticeship system to support you guys. It's just one example of the new thinking that we want to start sharing in the next 12 months to bring out the best of this sport. So more about that another time, because I've not got a huge amount of time. But I'm saying that this sport is more than the core, isn't it? We know that. I'm going to bring it out collectively in this next period to convince government, Sport England and commercial brands. There's not been a huge amount of commercial investment in basketball. I think networks like this and people believing in the changes going forward means we can have a different narrative, a confident narrative about the future of the game, rather than perhaps some of the things we've all experienced in the past. So that's where we're heading, and if you could help us do that in the next few months as we galvanise an approach to funders, that would be fantastic. We went through a period 2 years ago. It was a bit rocky because we were all kind of pathfinding around, how do you look at the player differently? And people say, oh, there's nothing to do in basketball. It's been around for years and it is what it is, but the game has changed. And the things you have to consider about player welfare and issues that affect young people and mental health, which we're covering today, and other dimensions about everything from behaviour and how you approach something, it's all changed. The judgments around it are all changed. So what we did, we looked to respond to making sure players have fun and participate for life, or they've got talent and they want to progress like a lot of kids that you work with now, is that we've got to have a competition structure singing with the development phase and the actual top end of the competition. We've got to have the right officiating blend of experience and know-how and know when to let the game flow at certain points. So there's a different perspective coming in from officiating, and we're looking to deploy people and train people a bit differently. That started kicking in. The coach element we're talking about a lot today. This is very progressive on the sports science medicine side. We've got a good network that's building now, and I'm seeing that percolate into the club environments as well. So that's very progressive, and that's being recognised by a lot of people. I think the big area where we're definitely learning a lot around the player welfare, but the club element's been something I think the governing body's neglected for a long time. So we want to bring that to the fore in the next 12 months, putting the clubs at the centre alongside the player, because that's where the biggest contact time is, isn't it? So we want to do more around the club element going forward. and I've got some thoughts about sharing the way we promote a facility plan shortly. And that period where we were trying to iron out the ages and stages, that's very crude, it's a very simple kind of depiction, which you've probably seen in the materials. And it's not linear at all, but we just wanted to iron out sort of the stages so it's just a little bit clearer to people about how this kind of basic pathway operates, to get that clarity. So with this kind of trajectory about growing the game and growing the infrastructure for basketball, it's kind of what are we trying to do here to make this come to life? How do we actually physically resource the growing of the game? And sometimes it doesn't need money. It might be about influence and persuasion or building people's capacity, but often it needs resourcing. So I'm going to just flick through some slides very quickly because I haven't got a huge amount of time before we get into the nuts and bolts of today. But I just want to give you a flavour of how we're trying to improve the way that sport has a bigger scale and a bigger presence in the country, and how we can influence other investors like local authorities, education authorities, individual institutions like local university going forward. So we've got a new communications director, Anthony Jepson, and we've got one or two people in the team that are new. We've talked to people around social media who are good at that, because we've been quite weak on that in the past. And Anthony's a former journalist, and he was in BBC Digital, so it's no coincidence the last few months the coverage around the GB women. We had a lot to talk about the Olympic qualification potential, but he's managed to nurture a relationship with the BBC and believing more about the game. Okay, we're not hot property on TV regularly winning World Cups and Olympic Games yet, but the BBC has started to appreciate what this sport's about. So we've got some pretty decent coverage, not just during playing time, but newsreels and pre-game production, and a beautiful interview with Tenny, human interest story, and you can just see the different imagery that we're creating. You know, rather than the standard sort of grip and grin kind of like imagery, we want to change the way we actually project the sport, and that's not just about us. We had a chat this morning, didn't we, about one open up so that everybody can feel that you've got some good stuff to post to us. We want to be able to have a gallery where everybody can tell their story on the website. So we're not about the governing body, we're really about putting a spotlight on the sport and what's happening. And we've managed to get 2 or 3 of the national media journalists involved as well, so we're seeding stories with them. You won't see instant responses, but they'll be more receptive to good news stories, especially given interest stories. So some movement there. And also the content. So we've talked to quite a few young people. Last year at the Bucks final, I talked to a lot of students that were watching the game. And I said, no holds barred, tell us about what you think about our content. I got absolutely savaged, and I was pleased about it. It's like, yeah, we need to change things. So Anthony's team want to work with a lot of people through the regional hubs, and we want to change our tone, we want to be bolder. We don't want to be stiff as a corporate body. We are basketball. Okay, we are a governing body, but we don't want to stay as a governing body that's stiff, that's too safe. We have to sing and look and dance like basketball. And we look a bit stiff, and we're a rules and regs body. That's going to change. We still have to have the rules and regs, but we do want to bring this sport to alive, and the governing body has to be totally in tune with the people in the game. And that's where we're going to go with our content and our support. And with that is a huge push for user-generated content. So take a few months to set this up. We want some sort of guide arrangements so that you can have access to this and you can push all your stuff out, not just through the site, but through the social channels. You've got your own, but I want you to help the governing body change and reflect what you do. If that makes sense. So we're really open-minded about how that can work. Anyone that's good on this subject, come and talk to me today, because any ideas that are going to work, we'll take them up. So that's kind of the profile in the media. But with that new push, we're looking to start to talk to brands about the value of the game. So we did a piece of work with a company called the Sports Consultancy, and they said, you can go for numbers, but you're not the biggest sport in terms of your core. But you can certainly go for your impact on society. So there's a push towards some brands at the moment saying, do you want to invest in this game? It's uncluttered for sponsors. There aren't many people investing in it at the moment. And for a very modest amount of money for a brand, you could come in and literally be the story maker for an amazing sport called basketball. You can take it from very humble beginnings in terms of a national picture. With a modest amount of money, you can put it in a fantastic place. And that's the pitch we're making to two or three brands over the next few months to see if we can get them to buy. It's pretty competitive because every other governing body is going to market saying, invest in my sport. But we're giving it a good go. can I say that networks like this, and I know the Aspire Trial is very much in its infancy, but when you've got solid assets that people in this room believe in, it's much easier to talk to a brand and sell it hard, because they'll come back and say, do the people involved believe in it? Is it a solid product? Is it quality? If I go and speak to you, will you be saying what Stewart's saying when I'm trying to sell it to a brand? And that's where we need to get to as a unit, if that makes sense. On the national teams, it was heartbreaking the weekend, wasn't it? Really heartbreaking. We were all hanging our thoughts on a great July with the Olympics. And some people got a bit flat about it, not surprisingly. But I was talking to a few coaches a couple of days after, and it was like, look, we've got the sport in the spotlight, and those girls have done some amazing things and got amazing rankings on hot air really. But all is not lost, because some of those players are going to carry on. But also, if you look at the next cohort, of which probably people in this room have been coaching some years ago, it's a pretty healthy cohort. I'm not going to name individual names, but there are a healthy number of young women emerging with a lot of talent, so all is absolutely not lost. What we've got is a temporary spotlight on what we could do. So there's more to come from that, and we want to get hold of that English talent, whether they're here, in Europe, and a lot of overseas in the States, and get hold of that and say, right, let's go again, next play, here we go. We're not going to lose momentum just because we didn't qualify for the this year. And I mentioned this last time, I think at the first Aspire conference about the Commonwealth Games. So we had a meeting with both the Games organisers and the practical people that put it on the ground. And we had a meeting with Commonwealth Games England, and FIBA was there as well. So Rob Breeding, who oversees 3x3 for FIBA, was there. So the organising committee of FIBA have yet to cement whether it's open seniors or whether it's under 23. That's yet to be decided. But what was clear was that the original idea of having it at one of the main squares, I think it was Victoria and Centenary Square. The engineering won't support that venue, but there will be a city centre venue. It looks like it's going to be designed, integrated with beach volleyball and wheelchair basketball as well. And thankfully we've got Pete Griffiths. I don't know Pete, but he's our sort of facilities expert, and he's involved in helping with the design of that, so it works for basketball. Not just during the event, but if there's any legacy elements after us as well. There's going to be a need for technical officials, and we've put our hand up to say, can you please consult us, because if you're going to pick officials from this country, you know, it's people who've invested in themselves in the game, and they deserve that kind of support, so we're influencing that as well. We're going to decide on a selection policy, 3x3, so the governing body, it's our right to choose an England team for men and women. We don't actually have a selection policy, it's that new to us, so we're going to spend a couple of months looking at other countries, whether they pick. A lot of countries just pick winning teams rather than the best coached players. Some people say you should pick the best coached players and mould them together and find a tournament opportunity. There's loads of ways of doing it. Again, I'm open to ideas. If anyone's got any thoughts or experience themselves, we really want to hear from you. But Steve Buckman and a few people will get together and decide how that's going to work. The regional talent managers, I know I'll have a conversation on that with them as well. And then the legacy is massive. And we're going to publish like an indicative legacy plan before the next season, so we've got a 2-year lead in, so we are ready. For us at basketball, as a British cycling, we managed to plan a legacy 2 years ahead of the Olympic Games. Things were put in place 2 years ahead. If you're putting things in place 2 months ahead, it's too late. So another push next time we meet will be, what are we doing now, or 2 years ahead of the Games, rather than saying 2 months. You just will not leverage the Games if it's that late. So it's just a reminder that we will do some advanced planning. We'd like to involve you in it as well. So for the GB teams, and for some people it is a bit of a mystery, I'm not going to talk about the complicated governance, it's pretty dry and boring to a lot of people, but essentially the British body, which isn't very well resourced for a variety of reasons, wanted to secure the future of the junior age group teams. They really wanted to support that group of people and the coaches and emerging coaches and talent to say, look, it's unthinkable not to have young people having those international opportunities with the GB team. So thankfully they work with the home nations, so Scotland and Wales, and we have put our capacity and some resources into this for this year. We're planning a lot earlier, and there's a lot of things we're doing differently. More open recruitment. If anybody in this room or any coaches that you know want to come to any of the camps and observe, talk to the coaching staff, talk to the physios, it's there as a learning opportunity. We've agreed that. It's not a bun fight, it's not a free-for-all, but through a proper way of getting involved, you can learn from those opportunities as well. We've learned a lot about feedback from players. So a lot of players a couple of years ago were saying, We put feedback in, nothing's changing, but we're doing a lot of that. We want to change the programme and respond to what they need. Today's a bit about that as well. And there was a session the other week with other head coaches about winning behaviours, not winning at all costs, but what are the most appropriate behaviours for coaches, the team staff, and the players to adopt, so we have an optimum environment for success and development. So they've done some good work on that, and that's probably something I think that will be shared across the piece, so we can all look at that and say, is that what we all buy into? So the national team position, from an age group perspective, we've got some continuity now and some integration with the England programme, just as there is with Scotland and Wales. I don't think between the parties we've been that good at communicating what's going on in that world. So one of the things that Anthony Jepson, our new comms guy, is going to do is do the portrait of the England progression, so that people in this room, you as coaches that are advocating for good practice and learning elsewhere, you're in the know. It's been a bit invisible, and I think that to be a bit more transparent, so that's what we're doing. So in terms of growth, I've talked about media, we've talked about national teams a little bit. The next bit is the notion of a facility strategy. Well, more than a notion, it's ready. We endorsed it yesterday at our board, Basketball England. I don't think the governing body's ever had a facility strategy. And given that it's the key dimension for the game, no facility, word you play, and the clubs are screaming out now, all the pressure from local authority declining budgets, sports halls maybe not being maintained as we hope, things not being fit for purpose for a quality game. There is a lot of pressure, isn't there? A lot of pressure on cost as well. Thankfully, the education sector have put a ton of money into sport in the last decade, and basketball capitalised a lot of that, and we need to capitalise on more. They've been brilliant. To be fair, a lot of local authorities have been brilliant too, but you can see the pressure on councils supporting sport is getting more and more difficult. So what we've done, did a lot of research through a company called 4 Global. They're experts in facility development. I won't go into the research behind it. We will publish the research and the logic. But basically, there's like a supply and demand model. What is the demand for basketball across the country? What's the current supply of indoor and outdoor facilities? What's the stock looking like in terms of ageing stock and what's new? Where's the interest in the investment side of basketball? And we've come up with different layers of potential investment. So the idea is that level 1 would be future arena development. Level 2 will be new build sports halls. In Australia, they wouldn't dream of building anything less than a triple hall. That's the standard. If you talk to a local authority or a state in Australia, they go, it's a 3 basketball hall where you're wasting your time. And the default in this country is to use the 4 badminton court denominator, don't they? It's a 4 badminton court hall, and somehow you squeeze your basketball into it. So we're trying to influence that through this plan to say, next time you build a new hall, just think about another sport for a change. I'm going to make an argument for that going forward. And then at a more granular level will be things like maintenance and equipment and adjustable baskets and so on. So the whole thing is very, very practical. And the idea behind the plan is not just a plan of demand, supply and demand, it's a way of teasing out if a local authority or a school or a college is thinking of investing in a sports venue, then here is the guidance, the justification, the demand model on the plate. And part of it will be things like architectural designs, model designs. I was chatting earlier about the typical PE teacher. We get a call. I've heard a whiff that the school might invest in a new hall, but I'm not at the meetings. I can't influence. We're going to have ready-made letters. We're going to have ready-made designs. We want justification briefs. We fire it in, and we help that coach locally who's found out that the PE teacher wants to create a good hall for basketball. They're all little things, but they'll all add up over time. So these are things we're going to launch in a few months. We'll give you kind of snippets of this before it goes out, and we'd like everybody to get behind it massively, because we're going to take this investment portfolio to literally sending it to all the local authorities, all the universities and colleges, and sporting, and saying this is why we're looking for investment and justify it. We can't guarantee investment, but it's a much better way of doing it than just sitting away and saying there's no plan. So that's really interesting. That can be a real game changer hit for us. We're using the modelling around the Commonwealth Games, saying if you want a legacy, there's nothing better than some visible facilities, be indoor or outdoors. So create a home for basketball. One of the thoughts we have as part of this plan is to try and stimulate outdoor provision. So I don't know, but 50% of the 1.2 million people who pick up a ball once in a while, who play outdoors, despite the British weather. And it's more prevalent in some of the urban areas. And in some parts of the country it's quite a cult thing. In other parts of the country it's in some sort of strange court away with a few people playing ball, nobody touches touches it, or you're moisturised by football or whatever it might be. But there was a massive upsurge. We detected probably about, in the summer, about 40 courts across the country where they've had treatments like this, where people have just used their initiative. Community groups have got involved, they might not be basketball fanatics, they treated a court, and the council got involved, put maybe 30, 40,000 in, and it's been a dead zone where nobody wants to go, to a thriving place where kids want to play basketball. And that's been an accident. So Pete Griffiths has looked at 1 or 2 other countries about how they've done it. Some great examples in the States where they engage the communities. You get a couple of grants with a paint, you might engage a local teacher, art teacher at school, you might just let the community get on with it, and all of a sudden you've created a really ordinary, dull space into a thriving place where people want to play more. We think there's massive potential for that. Not just around Birmingham, you know, the outdoor court for the games, simulate, copy the design, neighbourhoods in Birmingham, why not West Midlands, why not the whole country? You might be thinking, well, that's not very important to me in your current role, but if we can do this and give basketball a home in every town and city, all of a sudden, kids walking around dribbling the ball going to a venue like this, we have a visibility. So can you see what we're trying to project today? Push the media profile and get the national media interest. You move on with the national team and get that more transparent look at broadcast production potentially, and still keep those talented players interested in leading national teams. And you've got a facility plan that's not just indoor, because we're invisible indoors, we're about outdoors. So the whole thing starts to change and scale and appeals. And then, of course, there's the stuff that most people in this room are in the middle of. And can I thank you for working through the changes, because I realise that the Aspire programme is a touch point, and there's more to that. So it's all about the club environment. It absolutely is. But the idea of having 10 regional hubs with a network that locks into great talent ID, and I know it's deselection earlier, all these talented kids have a chance and you're giving them that opportunity, but to do that in a consistent fashion, with a consistent philosophy, with a belief behind it, believe me, that's starting to make a difference. Hockey did this about 7 years ago, look where they are now. And we're doing it with a lot less money, but I think we're doing a lot more passion and a lot more commitment. The energy that people in this room put into this sport is phenomenal. So, we're making lots of changes, it's a bit bumpy, we don't always get it right, do we? But the trajectory is really good, and we're here today to learn and move on again for another phase of this. And then there's some materials that are being put online, so we've stripped down the player development framework into some very basic things. I've seen a snapshot of it, I don't know who's seen some of that material yet, but it is available. Mira, she's there. So we'll post it on Hive shortly. I've seen a few, and they're pretty basic actually, but and I was looking at these are really basic. But Stephen Charlie reminded me that these are about putting the fundamentals in place and get everybody to make sure that nobody misses that potential they have. So why do we have an England player who can't jump stop? You know, what was happening 4 or 5 years ago when that was missed? And we just limited that athlete's ability. So there's loads of basics in there, and you might think, this is really, really basic. But it's deliberate stuff to build those fundamentals through the coaching education that we're looking to build. And it doesn't just sit with yourselves. So I think the key here is about the broader education with the club coach network. So the relationship that you've got with the players that come to your Aspire sessions, going back to their club environment, whatever hard work and other things you want them to think about is the relationship with the athlete and the coach, isn't it? So we want this to be diffused into the club coach network as well. And then this is absolutely huge. Other governing bodies, I meet with other governing bodies 3 times a year. We pick out key topics, and this has become a really confusing topic for governing bodies. I don't think anyone's got a really definitive approach at the moment around this area. So we're all pathfinding a little bit. There was that Tanny Gray Thompson review, which was absolutely huge, and the government promised to respond to it. And there's been kind of elements of that work looked at, but I don't think any governing body's got a solid position on it. So we're doing some stuff today that sort of lifts the lid off it. We're experimenting with some ideas, as you know, and I think this will be a key underpinning part of our work with young people going forward. Understand them more, respect, put those cushions and tools with them and their parents, and then the whole thing about athlete well-being, their confidence, their ability to thrive in basketball will change and improve. And we used this caption at a Westminster briefing. We had a chance about 6 months ago to speak to, it was about sport and social inclusion. And the money shot was this. We talked about, different sports came and talked about their sports. But everyone got the phone out when we actually showed this slide. And it was the point of a coach where it's like, they just see the coach when you're on the pitch of the court, and that's your hour, that's your session, isn't it? But we all know, you know, for every hour you spend with some of your players, there's another 3 hours of preparation, mentoring, support. I won't go into detail, but you know, speaking to the national coaches, some of the things that they have to do with some of those players selected, even just to renew a passport or get ready for a game or go overseas for the very first time, you know, what's the scaffold around that young kid? And if there's no scaffold there, they're the ones that become the scaffold, aren't you? And these people in Westminster just didn't kind of link to it. And when we actually showed this, it's like, well, that's the power of a coach. It was absolutely brilliant. And the discussion after it was like, we haven't really thought of it from that perspective. So, you know, this is what we do, isn't it? So for us to put a spotlight on this and sell this as part of the game is really, really important. And this is really healthy for our coaching base and the way we work with our young people. Beyond that, the school element is still really stubborn. So yesterday at our board meeting, we discussed a simpler way to bring basketball to life in schools. Now, a lot of you in this room will do a lot of work in schools already, I know. A lot of clubs have great links with schools and it's recruitment ground and it's great. But a lot of schools are deserts, they don't offer basketball, and the research we've got is a lot of the teachers haven't experienced basketball as a youngster. When they've got the choice, when they've got curriculum choices, they'll go traditional sports, and basketball will be probably, in general, lower interest. So what I do is design some really simple modules. Rugby Uni, I think, a really simple learning module so that non-specific sports teachers can pick up the basics of delivering a rugby session, and it's now being diffused across the country. It's a simple idea, really well done, with video and some learning logs and some mentoring from local coaches if we want that. So we want to look at that, we'll use the network to align on some of that. How do we do that so it's dead simple, it's not costly, and school can just adopt it. And then another element is we've started working or consulting more on local leagues. We've been a bit distant from the local league network, and we know there are gaps all over the country. There are some local leagues that want to fill those gaps with CBLs. Some can do it on their own accord because they've got resources. Some are really stuck. So again, we're looking to provide like a gap analysis, or support a gap analysis, and respond to building local competition proportionate with the participation track. It's not about winning at that level, as you know, but it's about giving them better opportunities to fall in love with basketball, and they can progress into your world as well. And then we've got this program called Slam Dunk, which we tested a couple of years ago, and it's starting to get traction now, where various organisations want to deliver a short programme based on fun. It's physical literacy in schools, which supplements what I've just mentioned. And then the other big element we've been pushing for the past 5 months is this campaign. This sits on the back of really the national teams initially, but it isn't totally connected to national teams. This is about influencing women and girls to consider basketball, or who are in it to consider doing more to contribute. And our first milestone was to recruit 100 ambassadors, and we achieved that 2 weeks ago. And the ambassadors are coming in like 3 or 4 kind of interest groups. We've got quite a few top-end players in the WBBL and the top end of the National League, and they're saying, look, I'm busy playing, do a bit of coaching, but I'm very, very comfortable in doing stuff on social media, influencing people, encouraging people to play. We've got other women that have come forward saying, I'm very practical, I coach, I've got some time to do more coaching, I want to activate some sessions. We've got other people who are administrators saying, I can get my club to think about recruitment a bit more, we can think about how do we attract more girls into our club. And then we've got people who are very much like really active on social media saying, look, you give me some information and I can create some stories. So we've got 3 or 4 different types of people come forward saying, I really want to contribute to the women and girls game, and it's just the start of creating that capacity. It's not all about the women being ambassadors, but a few guys come forward saying, I think Len was one of them actually, but hey, I do an awful lot for the women's game as well, so I want to be part of this ambassador network, so we're really open-minded about that too. I've talked at 1,000,000 miles an hour, so I know it wasn't giving me 15 minutes, and I wanted a lot on. But the reason I've given this is just, I think it's just really good context to just relate to you guys about, you know, we're trying to move different elements of the game into a better place and create a growth environment. And the coaching component's core to this, isn't it? If you take the coaching out of what I've just said, it kind of just falls flat. So the network today and the wider network of coaches are the key in this kind of like ecosystem of basketball. And I just wanted to share the 5 or 6 things that we're pressing at Basketball England to make your environment just that bit healthy so that you can succeed with the people you work with.